All right, so I am so excited to be here for our very first Love Bites episode. This is going to be a new series that's part of the Love Means Business community where we are going to have people on and we're going to focus on certain topics that are really relevant in that dark love, toxic relationship atmosphere. So today, I am so excited to have Andrielle on, and she is a survivor of narcissistic relationships and has really created this amazing community, has become such a resource for people who are also dealing with that. So why don't you tell me a little bit more about, like, how did you get into this? What's your story?
Yeah, yeah. Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me. Gosh, I know it's kind of crazy. I kind of can't believe I'm here, really, but it's like none of us really wanted this. Like,
No.
none of us wanted a degree in narcissism. But yeah, it really just started with, I ended up married to an overt, grandiose narcissist. So those are like the obvious ones when you think of narcissism. That's the one
Mm-hmm.
people think of. But so I thought he was like maybe a borderline or something. So, of course I took to Google and I started researching, and it led me to narcissism. And I'm like, oh, all right. So I started doing this research. This was years ago, probably 8 years ago or so. So it's like I've been kind of studying this for a long time at this point.
Yeah.
And then I was we divorced and I ended up getting with a covert narcissist. So those are the ones that I really try to warn people about the most, because
Right.
it's like those are the subtle, sneaky, manipulative, like they're just so under the radar. It like
Yeah.
that's what really threw me, was that was worse. Even though all the things my ex-husband did was terrible, but emotionally, it's like the covert wrecked me.
Yeah.
Like it was
Yeah.
awful. It was so awful. And it's like if I can share my story and just help bring awareness and help others like recognize if they might be in, a relationship with a narcissist, because they are not like normal people. Like it's not,
Yeah.
you're not dealing with a normal person when you're dealing with a narcissist. And the only thing you can really do is get out and go no contact. So it's like I
Yes.
try to push that. No contact. That's the
Yeah.
only way, really. Yeah, that's what I try to help.
Well, and I feel like, like you said, none of us necessarily want to be here. Like, if you're looking up narcissism things or you feel like you're in that type of relationship, it's probably not something you were like dreaming about when you were praying for like Prince Charming or Princess, Princess
Right.
Charming or whatever you're, looking
Yeah.
for. But you're
Yeah.
here, you need the help. And I think
Yeah.
one of the
That's
things
what
with
they do.
yeah, and it can be confusing. You can feel like you're crazy, and you don't know where to turn. So this
Definitely.
particular episode, I'm probably going to title it Narcissism 101, because I want
Yeah.
to dig into what is the actual definition per, some defined resources, and then what are some of the
Yeah.
signs, the classic signs of it, and then to your point, like, how do you deal with it? How do you get away? How do you avoid it altogether if possible? Because that would be best case scenario if you can.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
don't know if that is possible to all the time
Right.
avoid that.
I
So
know. I know.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I know, and I'm at the point now where it's been almost a year since I've left the covert. So,
Yeah,
and I really encourage people to just do the inner work and stay single for a little while, at least no sooner than 3 months. But I feel like there's still a lot of work to do.
yeah,
It probably 6 months at least. And then I say too, like I call it practice dating. So, like, go into it just thinking of practice, not like, I'm going to meet my soulmate. Because it's like, no, we all have to be so careful now. Like,
yeah,
don't get love bombed because that's what they do. And if, women, we like to believe in the fairy tale story. And so it's easy, especially for us women, to get swept up in that when we find a guy we like. So it's like now I'm at the point where I'm like trying to do the practice dating. And it's like that's a whole nother topic and story. Just trying to date at all. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
goodness. It's a rough out there.
Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into what the definition of it is, because quite honestly, I wasn't sure until I looked it up. Like, I've heard so many people talk about it, right? And I like the sign
Yeah.
I'm like, what's the actual definition? So
I
this
know.
is
I would like to know too, actually.
yeah,
I'm like, it's just so much that goes into
there's
narcissism.
so
It's
much, right?
yeah, yeah.
So
So
much.
it is good to, yeah, I
So this
like to
is
hear
from
this.
the Mayo Clinic, which is a
hmm
pretty reputable, I think that's how you say that word, source.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, okay, so according to them, narcissistic personality disorder is a mental health condition in which people have an unreasonably high sense of their own importance. They need and
hmm
seek too much attention and want people to admire them. People with this disorder may lack the ability to understand or care about the feelings of others, but behind this mask of extreme confidence, they are not sure of their self worth and are easily upset by the slightest criticism. So I think that's pretty good. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I think so too. Did it say anything about empathy in there? Because that's another big one is they lack empathy.
Well, I think, saying they don't understand or care about the feelings of others.
Yeah.
So that's probably
Yeah.
kind of their way of saying that. But that is a huge, huge, huge indicator for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
they talk about like certain symptoms. So I thought we could kind of walk into that. And then if you
Yeah.
have any stories or I don't know,
Oh, I know.
tidbits about any of these
Too many.
symptoms, just raise your hand and I'll stop and we can dive
Oh,
into
okay. Yeah. Oh, good. You'll read them.
I'm gonna
Yes.
read
That
them.
helps so much. Yeah. And I do too. I have on my, in my profile, I did make a like signs of a narcissist
Yes.
and a little quiz for people that
Ooh,
they can download. Yeah, because I'm like, it's just so hard sometimes to put into words. There's just so much that goes
yeah,
into it. So I just felt
there's
like
so
having it
much.
in print, yeah, where they could just see it like boom, 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 just like facts
Yes.
and, and not that it's to diagnose anyone because like we can't
Right.
do that,
Right.
but at least it
It's
gets
helpful.
people self-reflecting. Yeah, it's like it's just a
Yes.
good tool for people to use. And if you're not being treated right in a relationship, it's like, get out. If the other person doesn't want to do the work, then,
Yeah.
you know, life's too short to be
100%.
unhappy.
So
Yeah.
what we can do
Mhm.
is this full episode we can put in the comments on YouTube. We'll put a link to the quiz. Can we do that?
Oh,
Will that work?
perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, cool. That's
Awesome.
great. Love
All
it.
right. So here are some official symptoms of
Mhm.
narcissistic personality disorder. And the severity according to this can vary like any disorder. So number 1, have an unreasonably high sense of self-importance and require constant excessive admiration.
Mhm. Mhm.
That rings true.
Yeah. That one's like the I mean it goes with both, but definitely the overt grandiose. Those are
Yeah.
like they just think they're God's gift. The covert is more of a humble. They appear humble, but still have that same need for validation, but it just comes out differently. Like
Yeah.
they show it differently. Yeah. Yeah.
And in my
Definitely.
experience with this particular symptom, I feel like, and there might be more that go along with this, but where they always have to be right. And like if
Yeah.
you do something and you get recognition, they have to somehow make that applicable to something that they did to help you with
Yeah.
that. And it's like, but
Yeah.
on the flip side, if you do something that's not great, they are like, throw you under the bus. I didn't have anything to do
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
That doesn't reflect on me. I
Right.
feel amazing for that.
I
Yeah.
know. Yeah, they're such hypocrites too. They're just such hypocrites. And I've said that before too. I was like, don't ever get a compliment when you're out with that narcissist because it's like you'll
Hmm.
be paying for that for all night. It's like if anyone recognizes you for something, they just
That's
cannot handle
true.
that. They hate that. And
That's
they'll go and
exactly.
devalue you all night. Yeah, it's terrible. They're
That's a really
just
good
terrible.
point. And I feel like
Yeah.
with my experience, when that sort of thing happened, the devaluing thing,
Mhm.
1000%. But then
Yeah.
sometimes they would take it a step further and almost retaliate against the
Yeah.
person that did that because it was
Oh,
like they felt threatened by that person. And I'm like,
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why. Like,
I know. I know. It's like, how did we put up with it for so long, really? But that's what they're master manipulators. That's what I always say. Because it's like, and they obviously don't start off
no.
that bad in a relationship. They slowly over time start chipping away at you. And then you
Yeah.
don't even recognize yourself by the end of it all.
All
Yeah.
right. So the
Yeah.
next
That's
thing
why.
on here, they feel that they deserve
Mhm.
privileges and special treatment.
Yeah, yeah, entitled. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah, just their entitlement makes sense.
Expect to be recognized as superior even without achievements.
Yeah, yeah, makes
Like,
sense.
you just raise your hand if you got a big story or something with any of these.
Okay,
I will stop.
okay.
Make
Yeah.
achievements and talents seem bigger than they are.
Mm-hmm.
Be preoccupied with fantasies about success, power, brilliance, beauty, or the perfect mate.
Yeah, yeah.
Believe they are.
My ex-husband was like that. Sorry, but
Oh
he
no,
was.
no. Just
Yeah, he was.
example.
Yeah, the overt grandiose. He would he just thought he was what he did all day was he sat in the garage and watched YouTube, but he acted like he told everyone, he had this business and he's this entrepreneur and he just made everything seem like so awesome. Like you'd think he was like in Miami in a skyscraper or something, like living on a yacht or something, and he's really sitting in the garage. And he smoked pot all day. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
Okay, that's
Am I
fine.
allowed to
This
say
isn't
that?
for kids, so.
Yeah, that's what he did. Like that was it. His life was watching YouTube, watching other people be successful, but like acting like he was the one, that was successful. So it's just like they're just delusional. They live in such a delusional world, but then make you think you're the crazy one. It's it's a
Yeah,
sick, twisted mind game. It's amazing we
yeah.
came out of it. Ugh.
You know what that made me think of when you were describing that? It's almost like in The Wizard of Oz, how the wizard is behind the curtain and he's built this amazing thing, but he's not that at all. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah, that's such a great explanation. I love that. Yep. Yep. Sounds right.
Believe they are superior to others and can only spend time with or be understood by equally special people.
Yeah. The status thing. Yeah. Yep. That makes so much sense. These are reminding me of mostly my overt
Yeah.
grandiose right now. Yeah.
Well,
That
yeah,
makes
maybe
sense.
there's
Well, no,
I
the covert was like that too, actually. He like was very big on status and they wanted to only be around people that they thought could elevate their
right.
lifestyle or their status. Because, he had successful friends and stuff. And it's like, and he would always look at me like to make sure I'm acting a certain way or being a certain way around these people that he gave this high status symbol to, and so it was like I was always being watched and just heavily, criticized for any little thing. But then
Right.
it's like when I wasn't even doing anything though, it's like just anything. They use anything to pick at you. But then they're really the ones that behave in the way of shame Like, they're the embarrassing ones.
Yeah, and it's kind of ironic because they're so worried
Yeah.
about appearances. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of funny. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think they look at you as an extension of of themselves instead of
Oh,
another person.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I've heard that too. And especially with the parents, narcissistic parents, they definitely do that. And well, both of them had children, but my overt grandiose ex husband, he had a son. And that was just terrible to watch and be in that situation because it was like I had two of them against me constantly. It's like he was training his son to be exactly like he was. and then it and his son was almost 18 by the time we divorced. So it's not like he was little. He was like over 6 foot. Like he was big. So I had like
Yeah.
two grown men constantly just berating me and fighting against me on common sense things, like he'd let his son take my car and drive with no license, and then his son got followed home by the police because he was supposed to be at school. It was just things like that all the time. Just always,
Yeah.
he let his son do whatever he wanted and made sure that I was basically there to be their maid and, servant and just do what they wanted me to do, clean up after them. It's like, it was just gross and sick, really, to watch, like, how he was training his son to be just like he
Yeah.
is. And it's sad, really. It's
That
like,
is sad. And it's
gonna have another one running around.
right.
Yeah.
You're teaching them those things, and then that begs the question of like how much of it is nurture versus nature. Like how much were they
Right.
born with versus how much are
Yeah.
you taught to be that way. And but
Yeah.
you can reprogram yourself too. So there's hope
Yeah.
if it's not a biological thing with the son. Maybe he can reprogram himself. Maybe.
Right, because I did feel like there were, moments where I felt like there was hope for him.
Yeah.
So it's like, and I know I don't want to blame his son either, but then it's like, but you still know right and wrong, and but he is young still, so it's just like he has a long way to go. But I don't feel like he is a narcissist, but if you're the kid and your dad's letting you run the house, then of course you're gonna
Yeah.
run the house. You're going to push it as far as you can get away with. So it's like, I don't blame him, but it was just too much for me. And it was just gross seeing how but they do view that like their children are an extension of themselves. And that's just interesting. I remember reading about that. And like they have the golden child, they call it. And I remember I did some research about with the narcissists and the children, but yeah, it's
Yes.
like there's a golden child and like a scapegoat and things like that.
Yes.
But yeah, praised and worshipped. He was definitely praised and worshipped.
So being critical of and looking down on people they feel are not important.
Mm-hmm.
Expecting special favors and expecting other people to do what they want without questioning them. I have a
Yeah.
story about this one.
Yeah.
So the narcissist that was in my life literally would say, "You cannot say no to me." That was her phrase. Still says it to this day. So that you could, bottom line, it doesn't matter. You cannot say no to me.
Right. Right. That's terrible.
Yeah,
That's
but it's like it's just textbook when you read this.
yeah.
And it was crazy
Right.
for me because I had no idea, like growing up or anything, that I didn't know what this was. But then you
I
start trying to
know.
figure out, like, why can't I get along with this person? Why can't I have a healthy
Right.
relationship? And you read this and
Yes.
you're like, oh my gosh, that's almost word for word what they say. It's like,
I
at least
know.
helpful to define it. Yeah.
Yes, yes, it does. It brings like so much clarity. It is. It's like a relief almost that,
Yeah.
there's a thing for this. Like this is a thing and you're not alone and other people are going through it. And so it's just nice to know. And That's what I said too. Thank God for the content that was out there about it, because I don't know how long it would have taken me to know if it wasn't for all the content, and I could compare the stories and even the
Right.
littlest stories sometimes. Like it will, it'll bring up, a trigger. It's like, oh my gosh. And you just start, it's like you're putting all the puzzle pieces together.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
gotta get out. Yeah, gotta get out.
All right, there's too many for me to read every single one of these. But
Oh,
I'll
okay.
read like
Sorry.
one more. Yeah,
You
it
can
would
go
take
fast, and
the
I won't
whole
say anything
time.
if you want.
Oh no. Okay, so I'll
Okay.
read a couple more, and then I want to make sure we have
Okay.
time to go into like some of the tips and some of the advice because you have some really good stuff about that, and I just want to
Okay.
make sure we can have time for that too. So, they
Yeah.
take advantage of others to get what they want.
Mhm.
They have an inability or unwillingness to recognize the needs and feelings of others. So that lack of empathy, you talked about that.
Yeah.
Was that one
Yep.
of the major things that you found with both the covert and the what was the other one, the other term? Why am I blanking?
Overt. Yeah,
Overt and
overt.
covert.
The overt green. I know. Because
Sorry.
it's like yeah. Overt. Like they're just
Overt.
overtly, yeah,
Yes.
they're out there. And then the covert is, think like a covert operation
That
is
helps
how
a
they
lot.
are.
Like a spy.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense, right?
So
Makes
were
sense.
both did both show that lack of empathy or was it more with one than the other?
Yeah. Definitely. No, they both do because, they can never relate to you. They don't ever see it from your side. Like, you can never come to a resolution that you're both happy with, and there's just no compromising with them because it's always their way or no way. And it's so funny because my ex-husband used to always tell me that I would throw a fit until I get my way. Like, that's literally what he would say. And it's like, that's what he did, because they're always projecting everything they're doing, they project on to you, really. So that's what else I tell people is that, if they're accusing you of something, you can be sure they're the ones doing it. And they even get so detailed with how they accuse you of something, like down to like a parking lot you were in or something, and it's like, oh, so that's what they were doing at the parking lot.
Yeah. That's a
Cheating.
really good point that you brought up about projection because I think
Yeah.
that is a huge sign that someone is a
Mhm.
narcissist and that's a huge way that they make you feel crazy and then they control you even more because then you're
Yeah.
like, wait, is it me? I thought that they were doing that. Maybe it is me. Maybe I'm the one doing that. And your reality, your
I
sense of
know.
reality can feel topsy turvy at that point. Um,
Yeah.
I've definitely been
Yeah.
there too.
Yeah. They keep you confused. That's what else it is too. It's like they confuse you to keep you. So you're always in this just state of confusion, and then they get you with the highs and lows and the love bombing and dopamine and cortisol. So, they'll give you little like breadcrumbs, and they just keep you after love bombing, then they'll just keep you breadcrumbing along, and you're just waiting for that love bombing person to come
Yeah.
back, thinking it will get better, but it never does get better. And it only always gets worse. So that's why I just really try to push no contact, no contact.
Yeah.
Because people think, oh, I can be friends, we can be friends. No, you can't. You cannot. Don't try.
Yeah. I think
It's
that's
just causing you more
really true.
pain. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I know like there are some disorders or whatever that I feel like you read and it's like, yeah, if they get therapy, if they get help, you could work through it. But I feel like
Yeah.
with narcissism, everything I've read and in my experience as well, everyone who knows the person that has had this effect with me, they have
Mhm.
had to go no contact. They've had to just completely, and they didn't want to. Nobody wanted to, but there was no way to have
Right.
a healthy relationship with that person ever.
Yeah. Exactly. I know. And I feel bad for the people that have kids with them because they cannot go no contact. And I
Right.
know so many people out there struggle with the children and they're like, oh, they've got them. And they use the children to manipulate and control. It's like they're just sickening. And I have some videos about that where I do talk about, I think they're, you know, evil. Like, I just think they have an
Yeah.
evil spirit. There's something evil about them. Like, they're demonic almost. Oh, and then they have the black eyes. I don't know if you ever noticed that. Have you ever
Yes.
heard about that?
I cannot believe that
Yeah.
you've brought that up because that's something that I have talked about with the
Yeah.
person in my life, and it's almost an out of body experience where her eyes, it's the weirdest thing. If you have never seen it, you don't believe it, but they
I
aren't the same
know.
person. It's crazy. It is
I
crazy, and
know,
it's
right?
really scary. It's really scary.
Yeah. It's like you can see
Yeah.
them transform right in front of you. But that's where I'm so grateful for the other content out there because it's like you
Yeah.
see it happen, but you don't realize it's a thing. It's like, oh, wow, this is happening to all the narcissists. Like, what does that mean? It's just so crazy
It
to
is
see.
strange. There's so
Yeah,
many of
the
the
little
things.
things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like those things you start comparing and putting together, and then you're like putting all the puzzle pieces together and realizing, like, okay, got to get
Yeah.
out of this.
And
Yeah.
I
That's
talk
not good.
about the three signs of the weaponization of love in my TEDx talk, and
Mm,
ultimately they're like kind of the signs for narcissism when you think about it. I just didn't come out and say it, but one
yeah.
of those is being fearful. And if I had to
Mm,
pinpoint one of the things that had made me the most fearful growing up with this person, it was that the shift. You'd see it in the eyes, and it was like they were almost
yeah.
possessed. And sometimes I felt like
Yeah.
even afterwards, like they didn't even maybe remember or like completely know what they were
Right.
doing. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, like an otherworldly. I know. I feel, and I do feel like I bring it back to a lot of time. Like I feel like it is a battle of good and evil. And there's
yeah,
something evil in them, and they see that you're light, and they want your light. Like they see that you have the light, and it's like they want that, but they don't know how to get it, and it's something they can never have or create within themselves. So they seek people out that have the light and then take their light and
yeah,
till they're depleted and then get another supply, and they're just constantly, it's just a terrible vicious cycle of constantly
yeah.
depleting everyone's light.
Yeah, it
Taking
is
your light.
destructive and toxic. That's the thing that I
So
just always
toxic.
go back to is like it's toxic. And
Yeah.
one of the issues is if you have a parent or a kid who unfortunately is the one that has this, you
Yeah.
it's really hard to just walk away or even cut them out. Like how
Yeah.
do you do that? So in your
I
research and
know.
your experience, what are some of the things, if that's the case, besides complete no contact, are there any other things you can do to help?
Yeah. Well, there is a method. Let me see. It's called the Jade Method. So
Okay.
they say never justify, argue, defend, or explain yourself to a
Okay.
narcissist.
That's
Yeah.
really
So
interesting.
yeah, yeah. So, and that's in my course too. I put, because
Okay.
the course, we can get to that, but yeah, I put it in there. So that's helpful when dealing with a narcissist. Just remember never to justify, argue, defend, or explain, because they're always looking for a reaction from you. So, and they'll push your buttons and they'll do everything they can to trigger
Right.
you and just get any reaction. They don't care. They just want drama and they're toxic. Yeah, it's just
You
toxic. So,
are.
yeah, it's like just keep your level head, remember the facts, like only facts only. Don't let your emotions really get involved when dealing with having to communicate with a narcissist. But probably that's the best method that they talk about is Jade Method. And then there's another one called Darvo, but I can't, it's like deny, argue, reverse. I think that's what the narcissist does to people, though. They deny, argue, reverse, offend, and I forget, there's something else to it.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we'll
Um,
have to look that up.
so one
I
of the
think
cool
that's what
things
they do.
that I just why I wanted you on air is you've become
Mm-hmm.
this resource for people, and you actually have people reaching out to you all the time now, right? With these like crazy stories and things. So
Yeah,
talk to
yeah,
me a little bit about that. Like, what was that like when you went from sharing your stories, your
yeah,
stuff, to now people
yeah.
coming to you and like wanting
I
your
know
advice?
it was really unexpected. It was like I honestly just got on, I wanted to kind of share my story, but it was also a way that was helping me kind of just vent and get it out without going back to the narcissist because,
Hmm.
you can't, everything falls on deaf ears with a narcissist and it's always, your fault. So, but it was just a way for me to release it and get it out of me and process. Like I was still processing it all myself when I was making and learning and processing.
Yeah.
And then people did start reaching out. I had a couple videos on TikTok that kind of went a little bit viral, I guess. So they went to about like 300,000 views. And then I had quite a few people reaching out just asking if I would take calls or, they have a story similar or and they didn't know what to do. So I'm like, okay, so then I was like, I guess I can do that. So I started looking into, how to get like coaching, I guess, set up. So I got in my own courses. So I'm taking courses for myself now of, how to be a good coach for people and just get certified in that. So I'm still going through that, but it's like really simple. And I think people just want an outlet and just someone that knows and understands what they're
Yeah.
going through, really. It's like they really just want to talk to somebody that understands because if
Right.
you haven't dealt with it, you don't understand. It's like
No,
people
that's very
don't
true.
know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. Because I hate when people get on the comments and, they're like blaming the victim. They blame the victim. Like, oh, well, you should have known. You should have chose better. You allowed it. It's like, that is just so rude. Like, we've been through a traumatic event already. Like, stop blaming the victim. If we knew, we would have chose better. We didn't know. And it's not like they're holding a sign and have a sign on their forehead that they're a narcissist and they're going to
Right.
destroy our lives. It's like now we know. It's a good thing that we know. It's like a good thing we have the awareness now and we
Yeah.
are learning. So I encourage people like it's good. Tell your story and share your story and bring awareness to it because the people that haven't been a victim, well, they should consider themselves lucky, is what I tell
Yeah,
them.
I
It's like
totally
have
agree.
some compassion. Yeah, have compassion
Yeah,
for your fellow human for crying out loud. It's like just people are
I
just
agree.
crazy though. You never know what you're going to get sometimes when you put yourself out there, but
I mean,
it's like if I
you don't
can
have
help people,
triggers.
that's worth it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
But
I
if I
think
can
it's great
help people, then it's worth
you're
it.
helping people, and you've got your course, Overcoming Trauma Bonds, correct? That's what's
Yeah,
called.
breaking the trauma bond.
Breaking
Yeah,
Trauma Bonds.
breaking.
Hmm.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, I did create that. So that was just I don't know. I felt like it was just an easier, more affordable way for I could reach more people with it, and that's where people struggle. Like that's where the struggle is when you get out and just trying to or even if you're still in it, if you're still living with them even, that's it's just so hard and I almost forget now how hard it was. So I'm glad I made the course when I did. Cuz it's like the longer you go no contact, the better you start feeling. The fog lifts, you do get a lot more clarity, and you can look back and think, gosh, what was I thinking? I can't believe, I fell for that for so long. But when you're in the middle of it, it's just such a different story. And you're like, all the hormones, and you're in a constant state of stress. So that's what they say. Your body's in fight or flight the whole time with the narcissist. And you're just so used to all these chemicals and hormones now all over, and you're confused, and you think you love them, and you think you can work it out, and it's like you can't.
Yeah.
You
Right.
just can't. I know. So yeah, it's like
So,
break the trauma bond and start
yeah.
healing. And I've got like meditations and like affirmations, meditations, journaling, cord cutting meditation in there, just a lot of good stuff. I really put my heart and soul into that for people to help
Well, I'll
people.
make sure to link that also on YouTube, and people
Yeah.
can take a
Yeah.
course.
Yeah, that would be
How can
awesome.
you avoid, like, obviously, if you've had the interactions, these things are great and the symptoms are great to look for, but are there other ways to
Yeah.
just avoid it altogether? What are some things people could
I
look out for?
know. That's what I'm too. I'm like right now I'm kind of in that. Well, what the big thing I was pushing before I was even really ready to start dating was like no matter what, you just have to take your time. Like no matter what, take your time with dating. Just don't get love bombed again because also I want to put this Dr. Ramani, I love Dr. Ramani and
I
she's
do
one
too.
of
Oh my gosh, I
yeah,
love
I
her.
love her. I know she's
Yeah.
so good. So everyone should follow Dr. Ramani, but she had a podcast and I linked it somewhere in my page, but she said that about 1 in 10 people have narcissism to the point that it's disrupting their lives, relationships, jobs, because that's another thing. People want to get in the comments and be like, oh, people just throw that word around. You guys are overusing it. And it's like, no, no. So now I like to refer back to that episode of Dr. Ramani because she did say, she's like, no, about 1 in 10 people, and it's obviously underdiagnosed because that goes against the very thing of being a narcissist. It's like the narcissist isn't going to go to therapy because they think
No,
they're perfect. They can't self
exactly.
reflect.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
exactly.
it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot more running around out there than people realize. So I just hate when they tell you, like you can't say that word. It's like, no, if you were with a narcissist, you know it. Like you've put in the energy trying to
Yeah.
figure it out because that's what else I said. The person, you know, the victim is the one doing all the research and watching all the relationship videos, and like you're the one trying to see how can I make this work with this person, but there just never is a way. You just
Yeah.
can't.
So maybe a sign
But
is
yeah,
if you're doing more research than a detective who's paid full time for their job,
yeah,
then
yeah.
maybe that's a sign you might be with a
I love
narcissist
that.
because that's
That's a
probably
good
not
one.
good. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You're the one doing all the research, putting all the effort in. Definitely. That's a good one to put. We'll have to put
Yeah.
that on the
No.
list.
You're doing more research than a full-time detective. Probably not good.
Yeah,
I would say if you're
right.
confused, if you're like you said, you're always
Yeah.
feeling confused by somebody, and
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
your opinion doesn't matter, your voice can't be heard. It
Right.
is all about
Yeah.
them pretty much all the
Mhm.
time. And
Yeah.
the
Can't
whole thing
compromise.
can't
Yeah.
compromise. If you start to encounter
Mhm.
that, I would say at all, I would take a step, take a lot of steps, take a pause, take
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
pause there, because the other thing is
Yeah.
with narcissists that I've found is if you try to set a boundary, if you try to take a pause at all, they will react in a way that if you're looking, you will
Mm.
see that they are, because a healthy person, if you set a boundary and say, hey, I need a minute, I need a pause, they might be sad, they might be like, oh, that's upsetting to them, but they're not going to turn it on you, and they're not going to be mean to you about it. But
Right.
in my experience with
Respect.
narcissists in
Mhm.
my life, anytime I would try to set a boundary, they would actually put that on me and say, you're being controlling with that boundary. And I'm like, but
Right.
am I? I don't think so. Yeah. So
Right.
it's a
Like it's your boundary. I know.
yeah,
I've actually had family too that have been toxic, and that's another thing too. Like maybe you're more susceptible to find a narcissist if you come from,
yeah,
trauma or a traumatic background and just unstable, toxic relationships from your mom, dad. Like there's so many trauma,
yeah,
family trauma that can go into just the whole situation. And then we don't know how to look for healthy love and find healthy love. So we end up taking, the narcissists and falling for love bombing and letting them boundaries. I'm so glad you said that because that's just such a big one is they
yeah.
break your boundaries. They push and break until,
You can't have
you know,
boundaries with a narcissist.
right.
It's not allowed.
Yeah, no boundaries.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no
Yep.
boundaries at
And
all.
they'll
Now they can have
right.
boundaries if they want to set a boundary. They can,
Yeah. The
but
same boundary too.
yeah,
Yeah. Like the same boundary you wanted, they'll have that for themselves, but you
right.
can't have that.
Yeah,
I know. It's so
definitely been
terrible.
there. But
Yeah.
okay, so I think those are some pretty good things. Also, Dr. Romani definitely like she has got so many things about it, but I would say
Yeah.
for me, like the biggest thing to look out for are those things. If you aren't allowed to,
Mhm.
you're not allowed to have your own opinion. If you're not allowed to set boundaries, if you're feeling scared or you're feeling
Yeah.
confused or crazy or any of those things, just take a
Yeah.
pause and then see how they react to
Yeah.
that. Because if they react the way we just said,
Yes. Yes.
don't run,
Watch their
don't walk,
reaction.
run.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Watch the
Yeah.
reaction. Yeah.
Yeah,
And like
that's a good
even if
one.
they cut you off, like that's what happened with me where because it is a family member and anytime
Mhm.
I would stand up for myself or set a boundary, or even just say, hey, I don't like that. That makes me scared. That hurts me. It would be
Yeah.
you're cut off completely. And it's like,
Right.
but that's another way of saying it's not okay for you to have your own thoughts, feelings. Like this relationship is one sided
Right.
and it will only be what I
Exactly.
say. It's
One-sided.
yeah,
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I bring that up too a lot. It's a one-sided. It's just
yeah,
all about them. All about them. Terrible. But then it's just so bad because then they'll devalue you and the devaluing is just awful and it's like you don't even realize what's happening or what's going on because they start so small. So
mhm,
small. Like and they'll make it like, "Oh, that was a joke," or lighten up. They love to tell you to lighten up. And like I have a video of sayings of the narcissist because it's crazy because they all have the same like dictionary. It's like they all talk the same, do they it's just crazy. But yeah, they love
yeah,
to tell you lighten up while they're, picking you apart to the point there's nothing left of you when you look in the mirror by the time you're ready to leave them. Hopefully people can leave. It's like that's what I hope I can just help bring awareness, give people the strength to know like you can do it and you have to. Like you just have to. And it's so beautiful on the other side.
it is. So how do you?
Yeah.
That was kind of the last thing we were going to talk about. If you
Mm.
can't avoid them, if you're already in, maybe you're watching this or whatever, and
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
unfortunately already in the thick of it. How do you get away? Like, how do you get away from a
Yeah.
narcissist?
Yeah. I know because they're so manipulative, but I know, and everyone's situation's different, but it's
Slightly
like you
different.
have to have a
Mhm.
plan. Like you have to have a plan. Definitely have a plan. Don't let them know what you're doing if
Yeah,
you can help it. Like if you can help it, sneak out. You're going to have to sneak out. Find an opportunity to like just pack what you can. And depending how, if they're violent or there's also a malignant narcissist, that's another one, and those are like the violent, like
yeah,
those are psychos, like they will really hurt someone, so it's like you just have to you really got to go under the radar if you can and make a plan and reach out to like friends or family if you need to and just get out if there's a opportunity like if they're out of town or something, it's really something you do have to like have in mind for the future, pretty much. Unless if, you're really in danger, you need to get out, then, and I'm sure that there's resources you can put in for
Yeah.
people that need to like,
Well, and I
domestic.
think what I wanted to bring up with this is one of
Hmm.
the things a lot of narcissists do is they isolate you. And that's a super
Yes.
huge sign. They isolate
Yes.
you. And sometimes you can become so isolated that you feel trapped because you
Yeah.
feel like I've lost all my friends. My family maybe is not even talking to me. Maybe you don't even have a
Yep.
job anymore, or your job is tied to that narcissist, which I understand
Hmm.
that from my
Hmm.
story. So that's where
Yeah.
it gets even harder because you
Yes.
do feel legitimately trapped and controlled.
I know.
So
I'm so glad you said that. That's a huge one. Isolation. Huge.
it's
Yep.
it's huge. But no matter what, you could still get out because you do have resources. So what you said about keeping it secret though, I think we cannot stress that enough because the
Mm.
narcissist will try to get you to tell them. They're going to say,
Yeah.
"Well, you're being untrustworthy if you don't tell me things."
Yeah.
You're doing
Oh, can
this.
I tell you? I
Yes,
have a quick story. I'll
tell
just tell
me.
you my story of leaving the covert because I
Okay.
mean, he was into where he was basically discarding me because they love to ghost you. That's the other thing the covert does. The overt, this is one of the big differences. The covert is no, the overt wants to like fight. The overt is aggressive. They will fight with anyone, anywhere, anytime. Like they love conflict. So the
Yeah.
covert, though, they're, you know, sneaky and subtle. So they love to ghost you and disappear on you and, like give you the silent treatment. And that was the worst. Like, I'm just like, I would rather just get in the fight. Let's just get in the fight and be done with it. But
Yeah.
the covert loves to use the silent treatment. So they leave you all day at work and they love to say they're working. And I've heard a lot of people say this about the coverts. This is a thing they do. They'll be like, oh, so busy with work all of a sudden, all the time. So they're gone all day. They never talk to you anymore. They used to talk to you all day, and love bombing. And now, every 2 hours they'd be messaging you or FaceTiming you. And now it's like they've just completely disappeared. So, okay, I forget my story of leaving. Okay. So, I know,
Get wrapped
sorry.
up in
There's
all that
so much.
craziness.
I know there's so much. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then you'll say something and it'll make me
I
think of
know.
something. I'm like, man, I can't believe we've gone on this long already. But hopefully we're helping people. But yeah, so with me, I had to just well, when I started making my plans to leave, of course, now he's very interested in what I'm doing and he's hanging around me all the time and like, it's like they have a radar. They can sense it. Even though we had talked about it cuz I just got to the point where I'm like, all right, well, I'll just move out then. Because, he would be like, well, this just isn't going to work. But then he thought I would just cave in to his demands and however he wanted me to be. And they always want you to let things go because they just want to get away with cheating and lying and doing all the things they're doing. And they just want you to be quiet about it. Like, just be a good little, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
housewife and be
Right.
quiet. So, but that's yeah, I made my escape when he was out of town. He had to go out of town for a week. So, my aunt, thankfully, she came up and she did help me. We got a U-Haul and we just like packed my stuff in the U-Haul and got down to Florida.
And I
So,
do think that's so important though. Like you do need to do it when they're not going to catch you and
yeah.
as much as possible try to get yourself financially separate from them in some way.
Yes. Yes.
So that was the
Yes.
big thing when I made my escape. Thank God my best friend helped me. And the first
Yeah.
thing when she picked me up, she was like, we are going to the bank because the person was still on my bank account. And she was so right. The next day they threatened to take all my money out and I would have had
Right. They're ruthless. They
nothing.
will too. When
Yeah.
they feel like they know, like they've lost you, oh, they will pull all the stops out to make your life a miserable hell. Because both of mine told me, both of them did say they didn't think I would actually leave. And I'm like, why would you think I wouldn't leave? Like, who
Yeah.
would stay?
Because
Like,
you're so
even though I did
amazing.
stay, I know, but it's like I did stay longer than I should have, but I feel like we all do that. But it's just the sick game they trap you in. But I feel better that
Yeah.
this last one was a year. So I'm like, I feel like I at least learned quicker this time.
Well, and I
So
think
hopefully we're done now.
the other thing, like, and I know we probably need to wrap this up, like, because we could talk for 2 hours about
I
this.
know,
We
I
really
know.
could.
I'm just
Maybe this is
telling. We'll
part
have to do
one.
another one.
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to do
But
part two.
I think one of the things that's really hard too is it's so easy to be mad at yourself because it's like,
Yeah.
how did I
Hmm.
not see
Hmm.
this sooner? Why didn't I leave sooner? Why did I let them hurt me in so many ways? Like
Yeah.
financially,
Yeah.
emotionally, mentally, spiritually,
I
all these
know.
things. But I think you have to give yourself grace and you have to give yourself time and space. I would say grace and space, but you
Yeah.
do because if it wasn't if it was like that easy, no one would ever go through this. Like this they are
Right.
masters at this. Masters.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
okay to be upset about it. It's okay to be sad. My big thing is just don't
Yeah.
keep waiting for the perfect moment. If I had waited
Right.
for the perfect moment to leave, I would have been probably in my 40s or something and been way
Yeah.
worse off. You do need a
Right.
plan, but you have to make sure you
Yeah.
don't keep putting it off or thinking it's going to get better and it's not.
Right.
It's not going to get.
No, exactly. That's what I tell people too. Like, don't think that, oh, wait for my birthday or Valentine's
Yeah.
Day or this holiday or, our anniversary. Like, don't wait. Like, no, it's not going to get better because that's what I was doing. I kept making excuses too. And I'm like, oh, by the time this happens, it'll be better. And it's like, no, it doesn't. When you see all the signs, like, just get out. You just
Yeah.
have to get out. Yeah, yeah.
All right.
I know.
So, in
I know
conclusion,
there's so much. I feel like I still have so many things. We might have to do a part two.
part two. So, I
Yeah.
hope that anyone that's watching this, in its entirety, or we'll do some clips with things too. So make sure you're following along on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all
Yeah.
the things. But I think in conclusion, is no contact if you can. If you end up,
Mm.
try to avoid them. Follow the
Yeah.
signs. Please watch, listen to the signs. If this wasn't enough, do your own research. Be your own little narcissistic
Yeah.
sleuth. But try
Definitely.
to avoid. If you can't, if you're already in it, you got to break it off. You got to do it in a smart, safe way. And no contact, unfortunately, is the best medicine to treat
Yeah.
narcissism. No contact.
Yeah. 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 Because when they find out too that you're not coming back, it's like and try to be extra agreeable towards the end too. Just try to be extra agreeable with them. Like, everything's fine. Don't let them know if you can help it. Because once they know you're not coming back, they get crazy.
That's
Like, they really get.
1,000% true. I know with me,
Yeah.
with my sisters who ended up leaving the situation we were in, but 16 years after I did, they had
Right.
the same thing. So you
Yeah.
cannot let them in on your plan, even though they are so weirdly smart about figuring things out.
Yes.
Do not
Yes.
let them. Don't feel bad about it. It will seem shady. You're gonna feel weird about it if you're an honest
Yeah,
person.
because we're good people. Exactly. It's like I did too. I felt
Yeah.
bad and it's like I have to do this. And the covert said he hired a private investigator on me and he was hiding cameras around like my office space trying to spy on me because he could tell, things were different, but or they sense you pulling away. I think they just can sense it.
We
But
have a
it's like
very
if you could.
sixth sense with things. It's
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. If they could just
They
like harness that for good, they would make amazing
right.
detectives and things. They really would. Like
Right. I
Yeah.
I say that too. I'm like, all the energy they have, if
Yeah.
only they could put it into something productive. I'm like, I don't know how they even have so much energy. Like, because they're always taking other people's energy. Like, you end up drained and depleted after dealing with them, and they're energized and ready to go.
So if people want to get in contact with you, what's the best way? If they wanted to reach out to set up a call, obviously they
Oh,
can use
yeah.
your
Okay.
course, but how could they get a hold of you?
Yeah. So I have a link in my bio, and I do have it set up where I just got on Kajabi, so that's where people can go there now and set up calls. I was doing a Calendly link, and
Okay.
then I also have an email option as well in my bio. I just added that in for people that just have like a question or whatever, something simpler, or they just want like advice or feedback. I set it up where they can send me an email if they'd rather do that, or the call and the course. Yeah, I think those are everything. And then I get just a lot of DMs from like off Instagram or TikTok, so I'll get DMs in there too. And I do try to respond, if I can, and let people know that if they should set up a call, or I try to help as best I can, everybody I can, if they need the help.
Well, thank you so
Because,
much for just
yeah.
sharing this with me and
Yeah.
being
Thanks
there
for
for
having me.
people because I think it's the more people can support others and help them through these things, the better.
Yeah.
So I will
That's
definitely
what I
be
have to
sharing.
remember.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, you're
Because I
doing.
get discouraged. I do get discouraged sometimes, especially when the people get in my comments and are just mean. I'm
Yeah.
like, gosh, people are just have so much healing to do. But that's why else it's like, no, I have to keep spreading the message, because more people need to be out there healing, whether if it's a narcissist or not. It's like we've all had trauma, and we all have family, backgrounds, and probably not a lot of people were raised just perfectly with, secure attachment. So it's like people just
Yeah.
need to be just doing the healing, do the inner work and heal for
Yes.
for the planet. Yeah.
Well, so you guys can get in touch with Andrielle like that. So all the ways that she
Yeah.
said, and then also
Yeah.
through through the podcast, we'll be having different episodes every month featuring amazing stories about people who are dealing with dark love, what they've learned from it, and how they are fueling their professional passions really from those experiences. But on the Love Means Business website, on all the social, I'm always sharing things. And the Love Bites, this is the first one, but we'll have little Love Bites that we'll be sharing that are going to have specific focuses on topics like this that you can go to help you with certain things you might be dealing with. So thank you for being my
Okay.
first one. And
Oh, yes, I'm so
yeah,
excited about it.
yes, so thank you
Yay.
so much.
Yeah, I'd love to come back. We have much to say.
All right, I'm going to stop the